I just feel like this, as a design, is a more cohesive package than the other two body styles. I despise this. What's the point of it?
Look, we all know these things have got a great reputation for reliability, but being an import, one of the concerns for buyers is the availability of spare parts and service and maintenance. Let's set you straight.
If you're in the market for an SUV, don't forget these exist. It's just as practical and it's nicer to drive. Okay, do you want to see one of the biggest mistakes Toyota have ever made? It is this. The Corolla Touring. Not because it's a bad car or anything, we'll get to all of that in a second. The mistake is the fact that they never brought this to Australia or North America, or really anywhere outside of Japan, the UK and Europe. Or maybe we dodged a bullet. Maybe the wagon version of the Corolla isn't all it's cracked up to be. And with imported examples now available internationally, are these actually worth the risk? And if we're talking about the hatch and sedan versions of this car, well, we've actually already answered that question in a full review video of it. For that, go and check out the link below. But in this video, we're just going to be focusing on the touring or the wagon examples of these and why it's such a shame that they didn't come here. For example, like the hatch and sedan, there are hardly any reports of anything going wrong with the exterior of these cars. There were some complaints with early models of water building up in the bottoms of the doors, but to fix it is the world's easiest DIY project, and Toyota kind of brought it up in a service bulletin anyway. You won't have a problem with it. However, when it comes to the rear end of the car, if you get rear-ended or damage anything back here, these panels, most of the car from about here forward is the same as the hatch and sedans. But back here, this is all exclusive, obviously, to the wagon. And if you need new panels or a new lighting cluster, that can be challenging to get. In fact, we know of scenarios where repairs have taken longer than you're anticipating because just sourcing the parts from Japan or Europe can take longer than you're expecting. In saying that, though, this is a complaint we're hearing about from cars that are even locally delivered here in Australia. So this whole parts sourcing issue isn't exclusive to imports anymore. Actually, just on the fact that this is an import, we know that can bring up its own unique set of pros and cons, but we have made a full import guide video to take you through everything you need to know. And the link for that video is down below. Overall, but just stick with trustworthy importers like Justin from Colton Classic here that imported this car. He's an absolute legend. But let's talk about the looks of this thing for a second, because, look, okay, I really appreciate the design of the hatchback and the sedans. I think they look great, especially in the higher trim specs. But come on, look at this thing. And look, I'm biased because I do love a wagon, but for me, I feel like the designers got the wagon shape right first and then had to sort of reverse engineer the design to create the hatch and the sedan. I just feel like this, as a design, is a more cohesive package than the other two body styles. What do you think? However, there is a major design issue with the Touring. Fake exhaust. This is just lazy design. I despise this. What's the point of it? Now, a fun fact, everything from the B-pillar back on the wagon model was designed and developed in Europe, and the European examples were initially built in the UK. All the Japanese examples, so the ones that we get here in Australia, they're made in Japan. Also, as much as I love a wagon, the thing I love more than wagons are fast wagons. And this actually brings us to another big mistake Toyota have made. Why haven't you made a GR version of the Corolla Touring? Why, Toyota? Honestly, if you make that thing, you won't be able to keep up with demand. It will be the coolest car in the world. Now, it's inside where you might start running into some real annoyances because we are in a Toyota, and that means the infotainment systems can absolutely suck. Not in terms of, Bluetooth or Apple CarPlay or Android Auto dropping out, just that the interface feels a couple of generations old compared to other cars in this class. Plus, being a Japanese import, and look, this can vary depending on the example of car you're looking at, but you might need to be either pretty well versed in being able to speak and read Japanese or get really good at Google Translate, because you might get a bit of this going on. In saying that, some of the infotainment systems, you can change all the language to be completely English, or really most languages. Also, these infotainment systems have been updated and improved in recent years, and we highly recommend trying to find one of those cars, although even just getting your hands on one of those is going to depend on where you're watching this video from. Also, the sound quality from the stereo is pretty underwhelming, even with the more premium 8-speaker sound system compared to the regular 6. Either way, they don't sound very good. But good news here, fixing these infotainment system issues and improving the sound quality is a complete breeze. You could fit a DSP amplifier that basically sends the correct signals to the right speakers, or you could replace the speakers, or you could fit extra sound deadening. All of these things makes a huge difference. If all of that sounds appealing, you've got to check out our mates at Automotive Superstore. And they don't only carry audio and infotainment stuff, bar work for four-wheel drives, performance parts, they carry over 400,000 parts and accessories. They're mates of ours, check them out, the link is down below. But look, as far as living with the interior of the Touring, it's pretty much the same as the hatch and sedan. You've got plenty of cubby holes for all your crap, spot for your phone there, 2 cup holders here, storage bin here, decent sized glove box, door bins are okay, kind of scratchy plastics. Actually, the scratchy plastics brings me to something. Wear and tear might not be exactly what you're thinking. There's a lot of gloss black plastic that scratches so easily and looks filthy in no time. The leather on the steering wheels, it has been known to degrade prematurely, but overall, most of the interior should wear really, really well. It's like every other Corolla up front. And again, for more details on all of this sort of stuff, go watch our full video, the link's down below. Now, as far as what features and equipment you're going to get in a Japanese import model, obviously, it's going to vary depending on the spec of car you're looking at. Now, here in Australia, we have 3 trim specs of these. The Japanese models, they kind of align with our 3 trim specs. Sort of. But even for the base models, they do come relatively well equipped with everything you're going to expect. If you want more bells and whistles like multi-zone climate control and a wireless charging pad, maybe wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, you are going to need to go for a higher spec example like a WXB or double VB, I think it's technically called. And also like the locally delivered models, these come with the full suite of Toyota Safety Sense pre-collision systems. But again, if you want more advanced features like adaptive cruise control and 360-degree cameras, you're going to need a higher spec example. Also, while we're on safety features, please don't fall for the trap of paying way too much for OEM wiper blades or buying dodgy crap aftermarket ones. Instead, get yourself a set of WiperTech blades by hitting the link below. It's also going to get you 15% off and free express shipping. They are the only wiper blades we use. We love them and they're a great Aussie company. Give them some love. Link's down there. Otherwise, in terms of ergonomics and just living with it and looking at it, yeah, it's like our locally delivered Corollas. The seats are quite comfortable. Everything's where you'd expect it to be. Again, for all the details on this generation, we've got the full video. It's down below. Now, in the backseat of the Corolla Touring, I'm exactly 2 centimeters taller than someone else that loves touring, Coldplay lead singer Chris Martin. This is in my driving position, and it's the same as the Corolla hatch and sedan. Not a lot of space back here. My knees are really crushed up against the back of the seat. There's hardly any footroom. Also, the roof line here is quite low, so it makes the window feel small. And honestly, I do feel quite claustrophobic in here. Seats are comfortable enough, maybe a little bit on the firm side. They'll soften up over time. But yeah, it does feel very small in here. As far as features and practicality, in the back, you've got a map pocket there. You've got storage here. I know what this is for. Like, you can't really put your phone there. It's just going to fall out. Can someone tell me what you store in there? You've got some USB ports here. You've got a pull-down armrest with 2 cup holders there. Also cup holders in the doors. There's no door bins as such, thank God, because you're never going to get to them if you've got legs. But this little section here, this is designed specifically to collect all your kids' filth and crap. And now we come to the section of the car where it absolutely dominates its sedan and hatch siblings, Das Boot. However, the amount of space in here can vary depending on what's under the bonnet. Here in Australia, all imported examples come packing the same 1.8 litre hybrid front-wheel drive package that you'll find in our locally delivered models. However, internationally, there have also been 2 litre hybrid and 1.2 litre turbocharged examples available, as well as all-wheel drive models. And again, Toyota, why don't we get any of those models? Although they do have a slightly smaller boot space than this one. Also, compared to the competition, the boot in the Corolla Touring is larger than a Subaru Levorg and Ford Focus, but the Skoda Octavia and Golf Wagon narrowly beat it, as does another car we should receive here in Australia, but we don't, the Hyundai i30 wagon. Hyundai, what the hell are you doing? Bring that car here and maybe also give it the N treatment. But look, as far as this boot goes, so good. Firstly, the low lip is so low, so just putting things in it, unlike an SUV where you might have to lift it and then put it in, you just slide things in. However, under the boot floor, no spare wheel, and it's just a tyre repair kit and your jack and all that sort of stuff. But either side of the floor, you've got more storage there. And then with the seats down, it is cavernous back here. Honestly, you could go camping. Hang on. Look at that. So good. Now, before we get into what these are like to drive, If you're enjoying this video and our content in general, can you do us a favor if you haven't already and give that subscribe button just a bit of a prod, because doing so allows us to make more free videos for you, and hopefully that's a good thing, yeah? Also, if the prod doesn't feel like enough for you and you're feeling really generous, why not join our membership program? The link for that is down below too. You get a few more perks. Now, what are these like to drive? You're not going to believe this, right? It feels almost identical to driving the hatch and the sedan, and that means it's just completely pleasant to drive. However, it can verge on being also completely uninspiring to drive. But if you want a Corolla to get your blood racing, that's what the GR is for. Look, this car's job is to get you from A to B as easily and as pleasantly and hopefully as efficiently as possible. And these are efficient. This one's seeing 4.7 litres per 100 Ks. Plenty of owners we spoke to are getting less than 4.5 litres per 100 Ks. Even the small stuff, like how seamlessly it transitions from the petrol powertrain to the electric powertrain. You can barely tell it even changes at all. And the eCVT, it's fine, it's just easy. It makes life so simple. Also, there's no rattles, no squeaks, it sounds refined. There's no booming coming from the rear of the car. With many wagons, because it's basically a big base enclosure, it can get kind of this waffly, boomy sound. This doesn't. Speaking of the rear, how does this thing's bigger bum impact the day-to-day stuff like reverse parking and dealing with traffic and whatnot? It doesn't, honestly. Because the mirrors are really well designed and you've got parking sensors and a rear view camera quality isn't flash, but it does the job. Actually judging the rear end is a breeze. I don't think driving this is any harder than driving a Corolla hatch or a sedan. Importantly though, this is just overall a nicer driving experience than what you'll find in a RAV4 or even a Corolla Cross. Because it's lower, it feels a bit more dynamic, which makes you feel more involved, which gives you a feeling of confidence and security on the road. If you're in the market for an SUV, don't forget these exist. It's just as practical and it's nicer to drive. But here's another question. Does Toyota's excellent reputation for reliability translate across to an imported Corolla? And also, what's the go with servicing and maintenance of an imported Toyota Corolla? I can't answer any of those questions because I'm not a qualified mechanic. But you know who is? It's Jim.
As Adam mentioned, we have done a full video on the non-wagon version of this car, but a couple of mechanical reminders. Some people have complained about some oil consumption issues. It's not serious or common, and there are a few reports of timing chain issues and valve train complications. That the variable valve timing mechanisms can basically fail. It's not common at all. And as I alluded to at the start, the concerns here are servicing, maintenance, and the availability of parts. Look, it's basically still just a Corolla from the B pillar forward. The engine is the same as locally sourced Corollas and very reliable. And if you should need parts for service or maintenance or repairs, whatever, very easy to get. And also, if any mechanics out there are, oh, I can't work on this because it's an import, look, that is just ridiculous. It's just a Corolla and any decent mechanic can do it. And also, don't let them charge you anything extra because it's an import. It's just a Corolla. Look, overall, from a mechanical and ownership perspective, who's got two thumbs and thinks it's all right? This guy. Please don't use that. That is so bad. That is so bad.
But if you are keen to buy one of these, what are they asking currently on the Aussie used market? The cheapest prices are hovering a little under $20,000. At most, they top out at about 35 grand. But compare these prices to other cars that tick all of these boxes, and chances are for this sort of money, they're going to be older models with far more kilometers on the clock, and some of them have more expensive maintenance and parts and servicing costs. Not to mention the Corolla is arguably the most fuel efficient of the bunch. And that's why it's an absolute yes from us. You should buy one of these. Obviously make sure it passes a full pre-purchase inspection and make sure all the import documentation is all spot on. But if it ticks all the boxes, brilliant thing. However, if you do prefer your small practical wagon to be a little bit spicier, maybe suggest one of these. But let's talk about the looks of these, because I really appreciate the design of the hatchback and the sedan models. I think they're a really good looking car. Whoa, I might set a stroke.
Let's set you straight. Let's set you straight.
And then with the seats down, it's cavernous back here. Okay, go. Oh God.